This is the wonderful Minuet in G by Johann Sebastian Bach. I learned this as a child. It was one of my first teaching books that my mother gave me. She was my first teacher. I loved playing it then. It's beautifully written. It's in the key of G. We only have one sharp to track, the F sharp. And this piece has been reformatted by me on a 2-page chart. And it shows splendidly the symmetry of the piece. We have our page 1 with our opening material of 8 measures and an exact repeat, except for the midway point where we get the ending to close out that section. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then on our page 2, this abruptly modulates to the relative minor, the E minor. And we'll get into more detail about that. The real essence of this chart comes over here. But I want to say just a few things first. When I learned this piece, it kept saying Anna Magdalena, and I knew that she was Bach's wife, but I didn't really know much else. She was his second wife. He had 7 children with his first wife and 13 with her. They were married when she was 21, and she was his clavier student as well as his wife. She loved the piano. She was a beautiful singer too. And they embarked on a beautiful journey together, raising their children and writing and compiling together this collaborative effort called the Anna Magdalena Notebook. There are actually 2 of them. And the first one was written in 1722 of all Johann Sebastian Bach's pieces. And the second was his pieces plus some of their children's and some of their friends. This falls in the latter category, but it is Bach's piece. What's wonderful about it, now what were they doing? They were trying to write pieces and collect pieces that were going to be stimulating and educational for their children. They wanted to teach them music. They wanted to engage their interests, and they did. And look what they left behind. And a lot of these things were written in her own handwriting in this beautiful gold gilded pages, and it's supposed to be a spectacular volume. And I'd like to go through with you now and show you how I like to practice this. Starting at the very beginning, and that is the G major triad expanded into the full triad with the octaves. So right away, the students are learning, what does an octave feel like in the hands? As you want to really get octaves down cold, so you can close your eyes and know how to play an octave accurately. I'm going to play this first line here as the outline, harmonically. This is what's going on in 3/4 time. First starts with the thumb on G in the left hand, and then with the 5th. That's the difference you want to pay attention to. Going on to measure 5 at the midway point. That's the harmonic skeletal outline. I circled those notes. The left hand C, down a step to B, down a step to A, and up to D, which is the 5th of G major, and then he goes up. The ending, this time up to C. Starting at measure 5 here. Now let's play it as written. Up a 5th. Keeping your thumb on the G. Now that turns into a 6th. Another 6th. And down a 4th. Above it we have the right hand. Now I write the change of fingers here 5, 4, 3. You may ask yourself, well, why can't I just play the 5 each time? or the 4 or the 3. The reason is because by changing fingerings, you're going to get off the keys and have more of a lilt, have more of a gracious quality to the tone. It's going to sound better. Lovely slur here. And finally, down now, right hand. I recommend highly taking that last half of page 1 and going back and forth the first time and then the second time, and be able to play them back and forth out of context so you're crystal clear which comes where. All right, now going on to the more challenging part of the piece, the B section. And we have 8 measures here, and now I decided to break up this second half of the piece into 4 different systems. And the reason I did is because it becomes dense and a little complicated in the middle here. Let's start at the top here of our development section of the piece. So we have ended here. Simple 1, 5, 1 without any warning at all. We dive right into the relative minor of E, harmonic minor, with a raised 7th, a D sharp. Right away we get that raised 7th. That's actually major chord, which is the 5th of E minor. Now we have to cross over 1, 2, 1, and then that sets up the octave. Now up a 7th. Notice right here the finger thumb, then the 3. You have to squunch the hand a little bit. So that will put the 2 in place, and you won't run out of fingers. You'll have enough to get up the thumb to B, down an octave, and up a 4th to E. So we haven't got anywhere there, have we? Started on E and ended on E. The right hand. Now look at this marvelous leap. It's a 10th. A 3rd would be E to G. Your heart opens. Take a breath. Let it fall. See how clever Bach was? He got in a triplet there. Teaching how to count a triplet. I always count, and if it's in 3, 4 time, 1, 2, 3, triple a 2, 3, triple a 2, 3. Makes it very easy to do a triplet. Now we go into the duple. 1, 2, and 3, and 1. So right away here at the end of that system we have 2 challenging rhythmical differences back to back. So pay attention to that. Now let's go to the best part of the piece. Well, that's all great, but this is the part here when I've taught this piece for the last, I won't tell you how many decades. This is where people have problems. And the reason is, and I put finger number 4 here in your measure 25, 26, and 7 on the second beats. That's where the problem is. Let me just play it as written. Oh, it's so beautiful. It sounds so effortless, but there's a lot of finger changes there. Starting on finger 5, change to the 4. block those 4. Now you have to lift, do another cluster. And lift again, another cluster. Instead of up, he goes over to the F sharp. The left hand. That's a first inversion of G major. Do you see what's happening? We're getting out of the E minor. The E minor was short-lived, only those 8 measures. Right away here, with measure 25, we're coming back to G major. That is the 5th of G. Let's put the hands together here. This is so beautiful. Stop, feel it, listen. It's a 10th plus an octave. Vast difference. You know what's a good technique? Is to take the hands sometimes closer together. Instead of here, put the right hand down an octave. You can track it more easily, or put it up an octave here. This is all ear training. This is all coordination with these patterns. And then as written, you'll have a different appreciation for it. Opening. I'd like to take a little time here and breathe. This does not have to be a race with these lovely slurs. Don't forget that Anna Magdalena was a singer, a wonderful singer. So you're going to have that cantabile, that singing quality in these pieces. They were steeped in this, Johann and Anna Magdalena. Everything is the singing line. There's no such thing as mechanical playing. I'd like to point out in measure 25 here, this beautiful harmonic outline of falling thirds. Measure 25, the G, 26, the E, the C, and then that. Even that is interesting, how he would have put those thirds like that. So be sure, everybody learning this, your teachers and your students, sing these pitches. G, E, C, A, F sharp, D. The left hand goes down to 5th to the C. E, A, another 5th. I think that's just magical. It's so simple, and yet there's really a lot to it. And finally, as written, we'll go on. Look at that, a distance of 2 octaves, both on the D. What's coming next? How beautiful. Left hand in blocked form. Measure 29, a third, a fourth, and then the 2 together. Down a third, up the 4th, and then a connector. That's so much fun to play. Let's put that together. And light. Yada, bum, dee, bum, dee, climbing. Both hands are climbing. That's your outline. Recapitulation. And the final ending. When you compare the last 2 measures of page 1 and 2, there's one difference. At the very second to the last measure of the piece, we have a half note C up to D and G. And on page 1, we have, be careful that you are aware of those differences and which comes where. So enjoy practicing your minuet. And I would like to say one last thing, that how we locate ourselves is so important in everything we do in life. And it becomes especially important when we go to perform these pieces. It's not necessarily what we are doing, but how we are doing it and why we are doing it. We're doing it, when I asked myself those questions, I'm doing this because I love this music. And how am I doing it? With a grateful and happy heart. Happy, grateful, and joyful performances and practicing. Thank you.